Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. On this episode, we are going to be cooking once again from Deep Run Roots, Vivian Howard's first cookbook. And we definitely cook from this cookbook a lot this time of year. It's sort of the end of the summer. There's all sorts of of fresh produce and we have a lot of stuff to use up. So we go to her because her books are often, this book is organized by ingredients, and they're ingredients that we have a lot of around here and that we have growing outside. So that's what we're doing right now. And today we're going to be making cherry tomatoes in basil vinegar. So this is a lot like, it's a pickled tomato, but they're going to be cherry tomatoes, and we're gonna have to peel them later. But the first thing we have to do is just make the basil vinegar. And that has to sit for at least 3 days up to about 2 weeks before we do anything else. So we're gonna make this today, and probably next weekend, we'll actually have to peel the tomatoes and put those in there. So I have washed and taken a bunch of leaves of basil off of the stem. We have so much basil, and we're supposed to just cram this in a quart jar. So that is what I'm doing now. It is, she doesn't really say to pack these really well or don't pack them, but she does say to cram this in. So I kind of packed it. It just turned out to be the amount that I grabbed. Yeah, we're not gonna use that one. Looks dirty. Who knows? So there we go. That's a lot of basil in here. And next we're going to put in some peppercorns. I added my salt on top of it, so you can hardly see those, but we've got a few peppercorns and some salt. I'm using kosher salt. She doesn't say to use kosher salt or how much by gram, so it may not be salty enough, but it'll certainly be pickled. And we're also going to add some sugar. This is just plain white granulated sugar. And then we're going to be using, she says, rice wine vinegar. I can never find anything around here at any of the grocery stores that calls it rice wine vinegar. So I usually just buy rice vinegar. I don't know if they're very much different, but I do know the acidity, the acid level in this is less than, say, white vinegar that you use for pickling. So if you're using this for pickling, you have to be a little bit more careful with everything else so it won't go bad. But this is going to be just in the refrigerator. It's not something that we're going to can. And I did just break that. That's so awesome. So we had to do some engineering to get this open, but that's okay. All right, so that's not quite the amount that she says to use, but I'm gonna start with that and hope it all goes in, and then I'll add the rest. So we just pour this in here. And I definitely feel like I will be able to fit a little bit more. So there we go. And now we just put the lid on and shake it up to dissolve the sugar and the salt. So now we let this sit in a dark spot for at least 3 days and up to 2 weeks. So we'll see you probably in about a week. So my basil vinegar has been sitting for about a week, and this is what it looks like now. We're gonna strain this in just a minute. But the first thing I'm gonna do is get my tomatoes ready for peeling, because this is gonna be the most annoying part of this job. So just like a large tomato, what you need to do is make a small X on the bottom. So not the side, the stem end where there's the little round thing where the stem would be attached, but on the other side. And I've got a small serrated knife because that is the easiest one I have that will cut tomato skins pretty easily. And so I've got a small X. And I'm going to be doing that to all of these tomatoes. I've got some that were from my cherry tomatoes that produced really well this year, but she says to use a mixture of colors, preferably just for aesthetics, honestly. So I went ahead and did that. But we're gonna dip these in boiling water in 2 batches. So I'm gonna just divide them into 2 batches here before we go over there, so I don't have to kind of estimate at that point. I have a 4 to 6 quart pan of saucepan of water, almost at a boil. I've got it sort of turned down right now just because I don't want it to boil dry while I'm doing this part. So I did rinse these and make sure there were no stems on them. And beside my water that is boiling, I have an ice bath, because after we quickly boil them, I think she says only 15 seconds. So after 15 seconds, we'll pull them out, and then we're going to put them in the ice bath to stop them from cooking, because we don't want these to be mushy and overcooked. So I'm gonna be doing this, and I will be back in just a second. Okay, these are all, they all have a little X in the bottom. I'm going to drop these in the boiling water for about 15 seconds, pull them out, drop them in the ice bath. I'm not going to show you that part. It's fairly self-explanatory, but I'll see you when it's all done. Now, I'm going to let those sit in the ice bath for a little bit longer while I strain out the basil and the peppercorns that are still in this vinegar. So I'm just going to, I'm going to dry this out first. Just going to pour this in. And I'm going to get a spatula so I can get all those little bits out, because I'm just going to reuse that jar. Now, she says to drop these into the basil vinegar. I think what I'm going to do is peel them and put them in here and then cover them with the vinegar. That way, if I have a little bit too many tomatoes or a little bit too much vinegar, then we can make another jar of it. So I just put them all in the same ice bath and let them sit until they were pretty cold, because you don't want these to overcook. I'm gonna get a paper towel, and now we should be able to just slip the skins off. There we go. Some of them are a little bit looser than others, but they should all come off pretty easily. And we're not going to worry about the stem end. I'm just going to drop them in here, and I'm just going to kind of put a mix of colors in at it, you know, not just all one color. So we keep it all mixed up. After much ado, we have our mostly peeled. I had some assistance tomatoes, and they kind of barely fit. So we're gonna see if all of this vinegar goes in this jar now. Okay, that's as much as I can fit in there. That's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put this lid on, and we're gonna put this in the refrigerator, and we have to wait at least 2 days before we try these out. They will keep in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks, getting slightly better every day, I guess. So there we go. We have our cherry tomatoes in basil vinegar, and I will let you know what we think of them in just a minute. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make cherry tomatoes in basil vinegar from Vivian Howard's Deep Run Roots cookbook. So we tried these as a little appetizer kind of thing with the little balls of mozzarella. I would probably get ones that more match the size of cherry tomatoes. I got the kind of smaller ones, but I didn't actually look at them myself. I ordered them online and I wasn't sure which ones were larger. But that's okay. We just put one on each side. It was really pretty. Those would be great for a little appetizer, a little sort of chilled pickly thing to add to your sort of buffet, party, whatever. Didn't take long to put together, so that was good. I did add a little leaf of basil, and I think that mine could use a little bit of salt. So she calls for just salt, and I think I used my kosher salt, which is a little bit less dense and thus not quite as salty as something like a table salt. So I think I would use maybe a little bit more of that, or use just sort of a plain table salt next time to make it a little bit more salty, but that was okay. All I had to do was add a little bit of salt. I think in the end, I decided to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of olive oil, and it was a little bit like a caprese. We like ours with balsamic. I think the original is just olive oil with the tomatoes and mozzarella, whatever. It's delicious. I don't care. We eat it like we like it. And so that's what that reminded me of. These have been sitting in the refrigerator for about a week. So I have about another week to use them up. She says after that, you know, they will improve slightly for up to 2 weeks. They probably won't go bad very quickly, especially since they're in the refrigerator. And they're in vinegar and sugar. So it should be okay for a little bit longer than that, but I think they're pretty much ready to eat right now. So she says to serve them with like butter beans, lima beans, corn and snap beans, succotash, some of the other recipes in here, or just set them out with like buttermilk blue cheese dressing or smoked corn mayo just to dip in. So that's what she says, something creamy, which I think the fresh mozzarella gives you that creaminess. So that was my plan there. But you can also just, anytime you would want a pickle, put one of these in there, or slice it up, or make it just a little pop on your plate. Here in the South, we often do cucumbers, sort of a quick pickled cucumbers, and sometimes tomato and red onion in there. I think this would serve the same purpose as that on your plate, to sort of set off the fattier-ness of some of the meats that you might be eating, to have a little sort of balance there. But yeah, we really liked them. I'm looking forward to figuring out some other ways to use them here at my house. Let me know what you use them for in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and come back and watch me make something else next week.